All right, guys. So this chapter is going to be a little nerdy. It's going to explain all the fancy words that you're going to hear, whether you're working with a realtor or when you're purchasing your land. This might be a little bit of a long one, so grab your coffee. And I know it's going to get a little nerdy, but this is super important. So when you're working with a realtor or whoever, the seller, you're going to know these fancy terms and these words they're going to say, which are not really that fancy. So, all right, let's do this. So the first thing that you're going to hear, the first term is parcel or lot or tract. The definition is a specific piece of land identified by a parcel number in county records. So think about this as a social security number for a piece of land, right? Actually, no, it's not. I wouldn't say it's a social security number because it's common information. It's not really like a sensitive piece of information. It's just like, it's just a number that says, hey, this is the land. This is the, like it's, if you go to Navajo County in Arizona, there's probably hundreds of thousands of pieces of land. And you have to have a number that says, all right, this is my piece of land. And that is your APN. It's a parcel number, and it's usually multiple numbers. It could be 9 numbers or 10 numbers or 4. Depending on the county, it's just an identification number for that piece of land. And often when you call the county, they're going to ask you, oh, do you have your parcel number? And it's just a number. It's available. It's public information. And every piece of land, it will have one usually that the assessor will issue. So that's how you identify your property. The second thing is deed. That is the legal document that transfers ownership of the property from seller to buyer. It's often just a piece of paper that has, like it's often notarized that transfers the ownership. It's similar to a car title, but, it's just a piece of paper that you sign and the seller signs, and then you record it with the county. It's actually the physical document. So title means that it's proof of legal ownership, and clear title means that there's no liens or claims on a property. And deeds is different than title. So title is proof of legal ownership, right? And the deed is just the piece of paper or the document that transfers the ownership. So the next one is what you're going to hear is called zoning. Right. So zoning means that those are the county's rules that define how land can be used. And so this varies a lot depending on where you're at. But often, a piece of land comes with zoning, right? So it's like, okay, this land is residentially zoned or agriculturally zoned or commercially zoned, right? That's why when you drive through, this country, you'll often see, like, in most areas, there's a residential area and then there's a business area where you'll see like a gas station, and then you go off into the county, into the country, you'll see like agricultural land. So that's a way to keep areas organized so there isn't like a gas station literally right next to your house, or there isn't some other crazy, like a factory that opens up as your neighbor. So zoning is just how a piece of land can be used. And it's often how, like the county they have zoning for every piece of land. So the next one that you'll often hear is access or easement. So access is the legal right to enter and exit your property, often via a road or path through another parcel. So access means, so let's say, this calculator right here, this is your piece of land, this button, and it's surrounded by all of these pieces of land that do not belong to you. You still need to get to your land. So you need to get to it through a road or an easement. So if there's a road, you just drive up to it, there's your land. But if there's no road going through it, you need to get permission from all these other random landowners to get to your property. And that's called an easement. So you always want to make sure to make your life easy that your property has legal access. And that can often be a road or an easement or a path through another parcel, which is an easement. So when you don't have access, what happens is you can't get to your property, or it becomes very hard and challenging. So just always verify that there's a way to get to your property, and you have to make sure that it's a recorded. If it's an easement, you have to make sure that it's a recorded easement. So, on paper, you have a legal right to actually go through this piece of land to get to your property. But what you often see is most of the land will usually have a road going to it. So you can just drive up to it, put it in your Google Maps, and get to it. So that's what access means. So the next one is called a plat map. It's a county map showing property boundaries, parcel numbers, and roads. So a plat map is, you'll see multiple properties on it, and you'll have your parcel. And it's just like in that area, you'll see all the other properties and the roads. So it's just a big map of, if someone, if you were looking at it from like an airplane, or not even an airplane, but if you're just looking at it as from a bird's eye view, it's just the surrounding areas and how everything is laid down. Okay, so property taxes are, for owning your piece of land, you often have to pay property taxes. And so the definition is annual county fees paid by the owner, typically very low for rural land, which is true. So every year when you own your first property, you have to make payments. And if you own a house already, you know that you make payments, or you make a payment for your property taxes every year. So this is a fee that you make to the county for owning property. And it's very important that you pay these, because if you don't, the county can take your land after many years, but it's just something that you have to do every year. You just have to make your payments. Outside of that, the next one is a HOA, or a homeowners association. So sometimes some land is in neighborhoods, and it's like in a HOA, which means that it's an organization that sets neighborhood rules and fees. Not all land has one, which is the truth. So sometimes land is inside of a HOA, which often means it's inside of a neighborhood, and it's governed by that local HOA. Or if you buy land out in the country, or in a unincorporated area, or just even like in the city, but it's not in a HOA, the only rules that exist are the city or the county's regulations. So a HOA is just like it's an organization for a neighborhood. So the next one, with this one, is called utilities. So that this is like your services, like water, power, septic, and these are payments that you make to your, your utility providers. Just like in a house. So, and then the rest of the definition is off-grid lots may need self-sufficient systems. So oftentimes, like if your land is hours and hours away, way off in the country, sometimes there might not be a power company out there that is the power poles are not out there. So you might, if you're way off grid, you might need to have your own self-sufficient system. So that can be things like solar, or you might need to haul water. So utilities are something to also think about, meaning do I for this piece of land, how far away are the utilities? Okay, so the next one is coordinates, or GPS. So the definition is the latitude and longitude used to locate your property on a map. So coordinates are kind of like, it's just, so the next one is landlocked property. And this is very similar to what I was explaining about if your land is surrounded by a whole bunch of other properties, you need to get to it. So landlocked means that there is no road going to your property, or there's no easement, meaning you don't have permission from the owner. So that's what landlocked is. The definition is a parcel with no legal access to a road. So APN is just the same thing that we talked about on the last slide. It's a parcel number. It's just like the formal name, which stands for assessor's parcel number, which the definition is the unique number counties use to track property details and tax status. So, okay, so now moving on to closing/recording. So closing or recording is the final step where the county officially records you as the new owner. So if you remember when we talked about the deed, this is when the county takes the deed, that you sign and the seller sign, and it's notarized, and they record it. So that officially makes you the owner, and it's the last step. And that only happens if you purchase the land for cash outright most of the time. Uh, and or if you buy it with seller financing and you've paid off your property. So guys, with that, you've pretty much covered the basic definitions of the language of land ownership. Right now, this might all seem a little crazy and complicated. I assure you it's not. It's just new. And the more you go into this and you read up on it, it becomes very simple. It is, so this was a long one because it's just all nerdy definitions, but it's important that you know them. But just now hearing these words and getting familiar with them, eventually you'll understand all these concepts. So the next